Pleasant greetings to all of you at home watching this program. It's Monday, and I know many of you are recovering from your weekend, and over the last week, many of you have listened to the budget debates. I'm not sure if you can consider that debates or not. Some of you may have wondered whether or not the opposition members read this or listened to the same budget we all did at home, watching Dr. Ashley Singh outline the future of Guyana in 2023 and beyond, and what are the components of the 2023 budget. As you know, many know this is our fourth budget that we have read in Parliament. A lot of things have happened between 20 and 2023. The month of January is almost over, and I know we're all looking forward to what is in store for Guyana this year. And in the budget, a lot of those components were eloquently described by Dr. Ashley Singh. As you know, many of us have listened to His Excellency every day describe Guyana's future, describe where we are going, what we're going to do over the next year and the next few years, how he's going to build an economy, or building an economy that is creating wealth for all Guyanese. These are all components that we hear every day, we listen to every day, and we feel every day. You know, many, as you look around where you were in 2020 and where you are in 2023, and I mention it on every program, there is no way you cannot say you're better off than you were between 2015 and 2020. What is appalling that I probably find the most over the debate period last week, and I'm glad it ended. This week, they're going to talk specifics, and we're going to get in what that means in the estimate. But when you listen to, the government side of the House describe in detail what are some of the programs that 2023 budget entail. You heard Minister Ramsaroop talked about the $4 billion investment in youth, sports, and culture. You heard Minister Waldron talk about the grants of small businesses. You heard Minister Edgell and Minister Indar talk about the rapid infrastructure transformation throughout the country. You heard of Minister Rodriguez and Minister Crowell describe clean water, describe housing to the magnitude that we can't imagine being developed in our nation. You saw what money are going to be spent on these programs, what was outlined in these programs. And it described basically where Guyana will be at the end of 2023. And it positions us of where we will be in 24 and 25 and beyond. A budget is an annual budget, but also in the budget there's some capital expenditures that are called rollover projects that when started may last about 5 years to completely develop. And I wanted to go back to last week's comments where I talked about what is a budget and what do you invest in your budget. When you see a $100 bill and you wonder what government is spending out of the $100 that it collected in revenues through taxes, through the wealth fund, through other means of revenues, government then decides what it will do with that $100. So they may use $5, $10, for expenditures. They may use a next set of percentages for relief to the citizen. They may take a chunk of that and invest it in projects that will create efficiency in our nation and ultimately benefit Guyana. And then they would outline some of the capital projects that will be spent. So when I listen to the opposition leader Norton in his remarks in Parliament, what I heard one person said, they rather bring back former President Granger cardboard and look at it versus listening to the nonsense that Aubrey Norton spilled in Parliament. he forgot that the PNC and APNU and the AFC promised something called the Good Life in 2015. Remember that? They promised the Good Life. They promised 50% increase in public servant salaries. And what they did, they gave themselves 50% increase. What did Norton come back with in 2023 in his role as now opposition leader? He said we should give public servants 50% increase in salary. And, if he looked over the years, and if he calculated from 20 to 2023, and you look at the pay scales that have gone up, you look at the pay raises, you look at the cushions that have gone into public servants, one analyst claims that it's almost 47% increase from 2020 to 2023. You just don't measure it with an increase in $1 in your salary. There are many components that goes in an increase in a public servant salary. So Norton, I'm appalled that he doesn't even understand what he's trying to say. He is back to 2015 Granger's slogan, a good life for all. Let's just throw out whatever we want to say and expect it to happen. No, when you run a nation, just like those that run your company, those that even run your stall in Boulder Market or Big Market or any other market in the country, those of you that run your store, you don't just throw away and turn around tomorrow and says, let me increase salaries by 50% without the revenues coming in order for you to manage your operation. So Norton proves to you every day you listen to him, and I hope we don't have to listen to him too much longer because the PNC is actually trying to get rid of him and install a new leader. We don't have to listen to the nonsense because it doesn't make sense. And I'm going to be very critical in this program because it's really appalling that our citizens across our country, if they decide to watch the debates or read some of the newspapers' interpretation, should be appalled that these are people that doesn't understand what is happening. I brought a newspaper clipping, and I'm surprised at Kaichor News today. The article read, "Economy caught up in the jaws of the oil sector, Valda Lawrence." You remember Valda Lawrence? She's no economist. She is before the courts for part of the whole GCOM rigging. She said the economy is caught up in the jaws of the oil sector, and her definition is that the oil sectors have overtaken every other sector in export. What nonsense. If you think of it, Guyana oil, we know, is a large commodity. So if you're selling millions of barrels of oil, it will become your largest export. But our other commodities such as sugar, rice, bauxite, and agriculture are all growing at 11% in an oil industry. So you cannot compare the two, Valda Lawrence. The two doesn't equally go together. Export of a commodity of oil will always be greater than the commodities that you produce in your nation. So to compare it and for Kaichor News to even carry that was nonsense. Right? So our non-oil industry grew by 11%. What Valda Lawrence failed to tell the public that we are still trying to recover from what the PNC APNU did in 2018, 2019 when they kicked Rusal out of Guyana. 1,000 Region 10 people, 1,000 lost their job because they couldn't even speak to the investors in a nice tone, couldn't negotiate. They rather the investor leave Guyana, and 1,000, most likely of all supporters, but a lot of their supporters just lost their job. Valda Lawrence. So when you go to Parliament, don't try to be an economist. We have another one, I think her name was Finance, that described debt ratio, that their debt in 2018 was far less than our debt in 2023. What nonsense again. It's two different economies. One economy was $200 billion going to our budget. 2023 is $700 plus billion in our budget. The ratio is most likely the same, but one will be higher because $700 billion is much higher than a $200 billion budget. So all of them probably got their speech written by, you remember who that ruined our economy? Winston Jordan. Because the voodoo economics just didn't add up, at all. They continue to spill, as Dr. Singh talks about, rubbish and pipe dreams to us who sits down and listen to understand what is happening in our country. So the headlines of Kaichor, Walter Lawrence talking about commodities on oil versus the non-oil industry. We wish that you can have that much gold, much more gold to equal oil. We wish we could have that much more bauxite to equal oil. But the oil revenues tied to the non-oil aspect of our economy is what drives Dr. Singh's budget. So you add the two together and you put a budget together. Now, how will you spend that budget? So Norton wants us to give away the money, right? He wants to give us the money. Give them 50%, give them all the money out of the oil, put it into their pockets, and let's walk away. I call it nonsense, and here's why. If we had only invested in the Amalia Falls project in 2013, when APNU, whilst they were in opposition, leading in opposition, voted down 165 megawatts of power that would have come to us at 10 cents or so US per kilowatt or below. They voted it down. Had we done that in 2013, what would we be paying today for electricity? Not the prices we're paying. Imagine if government decides not to take that part of that $100 I talked about that comes into the government revenue coffers and put aside that we're going to develop the gas to shore pipeline and the gas to shore project that will reduce our energy, electricity cost by 50%. What would we be paying from now to 2025 and beyond? So give me the money. Norton says, give me the money. Don't invest in the gas to shore. Don't invest in Amalia Falls. Don't invest in infrastructure. How the heck are we going to be better off next year and beyond? And this year, next year and beyond? You see how crazy it is? Imagine if you listen to what the PNC Parliament said, every one of them, where Walter Lawrence says, oil take over economy, nothing else happens. One said that our debt ratio is higher than our debt is higher than it was in 2018. One says give 50%, reduce all the taxes. When they forgot, they raised 200 plus taxes, and I'll get to that back again. Imagine we do everything they say. You may have a smile on your face tomorrow. You get a check for X number of dollars, but in 2025, you can't take it anymore. You'll be bankrupt. The government will be bankrupt. The country will be bankrupt. Because we would have spent more money, we would have invested in what is happening today. Now, wouldn't you want government to take a portion of that $100, piece for gas to shore, piece for the 7 new hospitals that is being built, so that you can have better health care in your community, health centers, drugs, hospitals, specialty care, ability to live, because now you are satisfied that if you were to get sick, we have the right medical care to take care of you. Maternal and pediatric hospital already started at Ogle. Imagine the amount of pregnancies that is trouble in delivery. Now we will have a specialty hospital for high cases, high risk pregnancy from folks. Wouldn't you want government to do that? Wouldn't you want government to take a piece of that $100 and invest it in our infrastructure? Don't you want better roads in your community? Don't you want cleaner water in your community? Don't you want that playground upgraded in your community? Don't you want education and schools that Minister Manichan talks about in upgrading the school, the learning channel? Don't you want that in your community? So don't you want a piece of that $100 being invested to make our lives better? Come down to the remaining. Government sets aside some cash programs for uniforms, for schools. In case of flooding, there's a piece that comes back to us. Farmers that is in need in many times during our disasters are able now to get a cash relief. And then government puts aside a piece for long-term sovereignty of our nation to make sure that our future generations are able to buffer, the reserves in the Bank of Guyana, are able to buffer any catastrophic incident that may happen. The disasters that happen around the world, you have to have an emergency fund. That goes into the Bank of Guyana. So that $100 is being spent as wisely, as accountable, as transparent as you want it and as we want it, to ensure that you are satisfied that your taxpayers' money, your wealth from the oil, is being spent on us, is coming back to us in many, many ways. So by the time the government finish with that $100, guess what? It's ours. Every program comes back to us, the citizens. So when Norton, again, people rather the cardboard Granger come back, because you wouldn't have to listen to the cardboard. You couldn't even shake the cardboard hand. You couldn't even, you only could take pictures with the cardboard. If we allow Norton and those PNC folks that just spilled nonsense in Parliament last week to take over and run this nation, we would be bankrupt today. What happened in 2015 when Granger, Norton, and all of them campaigned a good life for all, and then turn around and give themselves a pay raise? A good life for all. Couldn't give you that 50%, couldn't pass out any cash. They stopped all the cash grants. They fired the Amerindians in the interior. They fired the sugar workers, 7,000 of them. Good life for all, they promised. And then they turned around and gave you 200 plus taxes to pay their salaries that they increased. They didn't give you anything new. Then they add taxes on part of that, on data, on water, and electricity. Did they give the public servants 50% pay raise that they talked of in the 5 years? Did they even add up to any significant number of public servant pay raise? No. Go back and add up what has happened from 2020 to 2023 in multiple areas when it comes to salary increases, comes to pension increases, come to many other areas, and you will see from the threshold, tax threshold being increased, what contribution of that dollar comes back to me. Patterson, for example, in Parliament, said that they didn't do anything with the Amalia Falls. They didn't stop it. And we know, you look back in the chronicles of Parliament will tell you that APNU voted down that 165 megawatts hydropower right now. What that would have done to us. They had no concern, no care for us, the citizens of our nation, and they will never, ever get a chance again to promise to the nation a good life. Couldn't deliver. We didn't promise a good life. We promised a life of creation of wealth for all Guyanese. His Excellency has promised a one Guyana where everyone is equal, gets an equal chance to develop themselves in our country. We have committed to a development with our manifesto that outlined what it is it's in for the citizens, what programs government will do to ensure we do better. Our manifesto that outlines the infrastructure development across the nation, outlines the Wales project for gas to shore that brings our electricity costs down by 50% by 2025. The President has buffered gas prices. Go around the world and look at gas prices. Look at how much people have to put in their tank. So when we say cost of living has gone up, it has. The world is in a recession in many areas. Costs have gone up in freight, costs have gone up in goods, costs have gone up in fertilizers. Every possible aspect of life across the world, it has gone up. We have done our best to bring inflation down below the national average, regional average, below the global average by far. We have buffered many areas. The President has taken off taxes off of fuel. Imagine you're paying the same price every day for fuel. Imagine if all the taxes, all the buffering are taken off, we probably wouldn't even afford to go out and drive our cars or pay for a taxi. So all of that again is money back in our pockets. So when you listen, again, now this week, you will hear the estimate. A question to Minister Teixeira may ask, what are you spending? Why did you budget $500 million on Men on a Mission? And she would explain to you what is going into those programs across the nation. It's one of the great initiatives by His Excellency. You know, when you put men back in the homes, back understanding what it is to ensure they contribute to society, when you use them to build elderly homes or to help communities develop, that's a program of a social nature that is needed in our nation. And His Excellency has done a great job in ensuring that that program is accountable and transparent and what it entails. Right? When the Vice President gets up and talks about our carbon, 19 plus gigatons of carbon in our forests, and that we have put it on the market because we're not cutting down our trees. Tell the developed world about emissions. Ask the developed world what they have done in taking care of their forest and environment. They've cut it all down. They've built skyscrapers all over the world. Emissions. Now we are conserving our forests. We are developing our petroleum industry in a sustainable manner. We are ensuring that our carbon that is now protected, you got to pay for it to keep it, to ensure that the world is a better place to live. That puts Guyana in a very, very unique position. And all of us, just like we're proud of the movie star of Wakanda and seeing her success with the Guyana name next to her, how proud she is to be a Guyanese, to come back home, to see the warmth and treatment and the atmosphere that she probably never knew existed to this level. To look across Guyana and see the diversity in our nation. She looks at the diversity on our cabinet. So when folks spill things like discrimination and that one side is taken care of, it's never proven. Around the world, they know that Guyana is a diversified economy, it's a diversified people, it's a diversified cabinet. Our president believes in one Guyana. His prime minister outreaches to all across our nation. That is what, when people say Wakanda forever, it will be Guyana forever. One Guyana forever. All of us working together, regardless of our race or color or texture of our hair or religious belief. Our president says we are all together working in our nation to build a Guyana. So is Guyana forever? As you listen to the star walk around our country, we are resilient people. We've got to be proud. We've got to stop the nonsense that our opposition is pushing in Parliament about expenditures and about frivolous promises that they can't keep, the lies that they have proposed or they have talked about in Parliament. They might as well probably use the title of the Wakanda Star, Wakanda Forever. Guess what? They are opposition forever. Norton, your opposition forever. Look at that. And your tenure, I hope, is going to be up soon. Folks are talking about replacing you, according to the tidbits around the country. Don't know whether it's true or not, but that's what is happening. So I want to continue with the budget and why we believe that each citizen in our country must participate. I was reading the Stabroek News today that had a middle page about cost of living. And we know our culture. If you ask me what's going on, it's quick for us to say, man, prices are high. I'm only making so much money. I want more money. That's something I think it's part of our nature. There would be no one that come out and say, I'm good. I don't need anything. We're not that kind of people. We know that we will always want more and ask for more. But as I read some of the reports, and I realized when people says, Patterson in Parliament said road price today is much higher than when he did roads in 2018. Well, what nonsense. It must be higher. The Ukraine war in Russia put a stop to all freight across the world. Prices went up to $24,000, I heard, a container. Guess what? Who's going to pay that? The prices have gone up. Materials have gone up, whether you're importing stones or whether you're importing cement or other materials have gone up. So wouldn't the price of what you did road for in 2018, when there was no issue with the cost of goods to that level, what it is today in 2023, almost 7 years difference, 5 years difference? How would you expect it, Mr. Patterson, that prices remain the same? Are you paying the same rent price that you paid in 2018 to 2023? Are you paying the same amount of price for gas, for bora, for cabbage? No. Prices automatically go up every year. It's just the nature of economics. What has to happen is not just government. Government is not only responsible for making sure that all these things happen. We have an obligation to take the money we make personally. What money do you put aside for building your home? To save up to put down your 20% for your mortgage? What money do you put aside to take care of your children's education, to get them to school, to buy their school books? What money do you put aside for savings of the future? No difference. That's what government budget is all about. We are there to try to make sure that overall the nation and ingredients we put in is designed also for you to be able to have a better life, to do better. So if we build a new city, Silica City, be the most modern city in the region, what opportunities do that give to you? Guess what the opportunities are? If you're now a distributor of goods, or you're a farmer, agriculture, or you own a few stores, or you're a truck driver delivering materials, that's a whole new opportunity for you to expand your business. So if government didn't announce Silica City, and His Excellency has announced that since 2013, he's finally going to deliver on that because the opportunity and the time is right. Now that increases our opportunities. Now I've got a bigger market to expand to. It's within, when we finish the highway to the airport, it'll be 25 minute drive the most. Could I now expand my services that I have in Georgetown or other parts of the coastal plains to Silica City? Could people from Linden who have done well over the years move some operations into Silica City? The government, is investing a lot in Region 10. President was there just 2 days ago. We're building a new stadium in Region 10. I mean, we're looking at, there's 2 large manufacturing operations that I have been privy to that are looking to be developed in Ituni and one in Kokwani. Ecotourism is great in that area. Bauxite, we need to expand our bauxite industry. If APNU didn't darn chase away Russell, 1,000 people would have had work today. That towns would have been booming and continue to boom. We now have to find a new provider to take care of the bauxite in that region. But we are on it. We want to see all regions in Guyana develop as aggressive as we can. The road from Linden to Lethem. Government has invested 121 kilometers is being built through multiple funding stream from Linden to Mabura. Now we in Georgetown can drive to Mabura shortly after that road is completed. Have you ever been past Linden? You know how beautiful that countryside is? We have started 32 international bridges all the way to Lethem. Imagine if you can drive to Lethem in 4 or 5 hours. See a beautiful new region in Region 9. Cross the border is Brazil. We have a bridge to Brazil. Think of the economic opportunities. Are you thinking? Are you following the money? Are you following the president's plan of his expansion? So it's not about Silica City. It's not about expanding in Region 10. Not about expanding in Mabura, expanding in Lethem, in Berbice. Where do you fit? That's what you should be writing down on your piece of paper right now. As these plans of government, as we bring electricity costs by 50%, you know what you're paying today in your business. What are you going to do in 2025 when that cost come down by 50%? Are you planning to expand to Silica City? Are you planning to expand to Linden? Are you planning to expand to Mabura or Lethem? Or to Escriba Coast that now have data, high-speed data through e-networks and GT&T? You can set up call centers. You can set up many operations now in those other regions in Berbice. Are you thinking, and now when you listen to Dr. Ashni Singh outline that budget, and now I hope I get you back to go back and take out your mind the nonsense that the opposition talked about last week. Study Dr. Singh's budget. See if those items that is being developed. Now, if the president announced yesterday a stadium in Linden, where cricket and other sports could be played at a national level. We know we announced one I think in Berbice and another one in another city. Where do you fit? Is it just Region 10 will benefit from that? Are there services that you now will be able to provide? Taxi services, buses. How am I going to get to a cricket match in Linden when the West Indies play there at some point? If you don't have your own car, are the bus services thinking of expansion? All along the highway now will start to develop gas stations, food services, restaurants. Are you thinking of how you can be an entrepreneur? Business and government goes together. Government is there to set the environment, create the incentives, facilitate the activity, but ultimately is us, the citizens, have to step out and go, I want to be part of Guyana's development. And I think the more we get away, and our president, as you see him, takes away negativity. He has no time for negativity. None of us have any time for negativity. We want to ensure, just as I use the term, Guyana forever. We want all of us to join hands to make this place a better place. If you look at any fighting with Wakanda, what happened? You know, fighting among themselves, having to look for allies, those are all things that affect the livelihood of our citizens. President platform is a One Guyana. It's setting the foundation to make sure that we go ahead. And one of the beauties of the current administration, led by His Excellency Dr. Ali, is accountability and transparency. As the world look at us, the democracy we believe in is the democracy countries like the United States and the UK and the Europeans believe in. We believe strongly in democracy. So those watching to come into Guyana, working as an investor, as an employee, as a tourist, Guyana believes in democracy, and we will never allow democracy to be derailed. Those that are still in parliament, those that are around the country that try to steal our election, will never happen again. We will defend it, and we will defend it to the uttermost. We believe in accountability and transparency. We believe in ensuring the citizens participate. When the president goes out on his outreaches and cabinet goes out on their outreach, and when you see him takes the office of the president out to these areas, he is coming back with so much things for us to do. I can tell you, the list is long. Phone will pick up. Peter gets this done. Minister get this done. This needs to be fixed in that community now. We have to ensure the citizens' lives get better every day. That's his commitment. Not fake promises, not wild gestures, not good life for all. And I mentioned last week, and Dr. Singh has said it more eloquently. Imagine the largest budget in history in Guyana, ever. And there's no new taxes. I want you to go on Google right now, if you're there at home, and find out which other country budget that has been increased in 2023 or will be increased will announce no new taxes. And they would have cut other things over the last year or so, increasing our threshold from 65 to 75,000, increasing some of the cash programs, increasing our budget in every single sector. And we're doing it with no new taxes. The Vice President said something very profound the other day. He says the difference with our country and the difference in how we run our economics is that we're not going to spend money we don't have. Right? The reason why when we came into power, we had a significant debt left by the Granger government, deficits in many, many areas. He said, we do not do that. We're not going to overspend money that in 2 years, if oil price plummets from $60 to $20, if the recession continues around the world and export and import are struggling, Guyana must survive. And so we will manage very prudently how we spend our money, how we invest. And if you listen to the difference between our president, my president, and your president, describe Guyana to 2025. Describe the foundation he's building to Guyana 2025 to 2030 and beyond. That's prudent, right? So we're not wild out there and comparing apples and oranges. We're not talking about oil as a commodity compared to where bauxite and gold is, as some of them are speaking in Parliament that I described earlier. We're enjoying working together in a prudent manner to ensure that every dollar we spend in government, every single dollar, must be accounted for. And we're going to get beat up in areas. Many areas you're going to get beat up. If a road is not done right, Minister Edgell had to release a contractor and never will get work with government again. The errors like that will happen. And we will have to continue to build efficiency, build measurable projects to ensure that when we says we're going to deliver something to a community, we deliver it on time and within budget. That's what you have seen with our government from 2020 to 2023. The next 2 years, you're going to see a very aggressive approach to transformation, continued transformation of our nation. When you look at the airport and see now we have a bridge where the largest plane in the world can land at Temeri Airport and deliver passengers. When you look at British Airways starting to fly to Guyana in the end of March, the expansion of our tourism industry, an ambassador type of Miss Wright that is a movie star paying attention to her home country, going back and telling the world that Guyana is a place that they should look at. Guyana is a place that believes in equality and transparency. A Guyana of one Guyana. And you can see the smiles on her face as she go around that feels that Guyana is moving ahead at a rapid pace. There's going to be a few of them that continue to spew nonsense in Parliament, in speeches, at election time. But you just got to go back and do the comparison with the PPP administration in 2020 to 2023 and before. What are the programs that is designed by us that are unique to show the growth in our nation? And I can tell you that as much as I can. You've got to feel it, you've got to believe it, you've got to understand where we're going. So what are we to expect going forward? You've read our manifesto, we have talked about it. 2023, a new FPSO is going to set sail for Guyana. We're about 380,000 barrels of oil today. When the new FPSO comes, we'll be about 500 plus 50,000, 550,000, 580,000 barrels of oil per day. That means in a year or two, when that revenue starts to come in, we would have a newer set of money to look at newer set of programs. That's one thing happening this year. This year, we have started in the last year, continuing this year, building a 4-lane high-span bridge across the Demerara River. That will reduce travel time, increase activity in our country, across the two regions. The bridge, the gas to shore have started. 300 megawatt of new, cheaper, reliable power. Bring our electricity costs down by 50% when it's completed. Who gets that money? Who gets to drive across the bridge? Who's going to benefit from new revenues coming from the oil industry? We are. We have put a refinery, proposals have been submitted and being developed for 30,000 barrels a day oil refinery in Berbice. So now, if the oil is refined in Guyana, and we're importing oil right now, we're paying freight for the ships to come in, offloading, all that is cost that is part of our gasoline bill. Imagine that refinery, when developed, is our oil right here in Guyana. It'll be sold right to Guy Oil and other gas stations. It's going to be much cheaper than we're paying today. When you look at the expansion of roads across the country, many have started in the last 2 years. We've seen Georgetown expand. We are talking about new highways from Crane to on the west coast that would ease the traffic, open up new agricultural lands. We have I mentioned about the road from Linden to Mabura and then ultimately to Lethem. We have talked, all these are things that are happening today. So 2023, in the budget, these are the things that is happening to us as we speak. As we open up new agricultural lands, more farmers. We passed legislation on hemp that is going to open up an entire new industry in Guyana. The coconut industry is expanding. We're about to evaluate and look at expanding the bamboo industry. The cash crops are out there. Now when the gas to shore is completed and the 300 megawatt energy plan goes up, guess what we'd be able to do? Manufacturing. We are already speaking to firms that could turn the gas and use it for fertilizers and other downstream products. Manufacturing of solar panels, turning the silica sand into glass. All of those now are activities that we could have never thought about without cheaper energy. So shorter term, 2025 and beyond. These are all activities and programs and initiatives and new entities that we never would have been able to do without government taking a piece of that $100 and putting it in an investment that benefits our people. So the outlook of 2023, six or seven new hospitals, couple private sector hospitals. Sheriff has built one in Lenora, is building one in Georgetown, building one in Berbice. Condos all over the world, all over the country going up. Hospitals and health centers, as I mentioned. That is happening in 2023. Look around in your community. Tell me if you don't see one road being developed or pavement being developed. Look at Hess, who bought our carbon credit for $250 million of carbon credit. Look at the new FPSO coming into our country, what that would produce that gives us new revenues. These are all things happening every day among us. So we may complain, we may batter with each other. We wish this could happen, we wish that could happen. We want more money in our pockets, want government to do more. But at the end of the day, if you step back and just concentrate on us, the citizens and government working together, you would realize that every initiative that His Excellency proposed through the budget is a plan that he will be able to deliver, a plan that you can see that is measurable, and it's not a promise that can be fulfilled. It's not those promises of 2015 to 2020, none of them. No housing, no new investments, no big salary increase for public servants, no cost of living buffering process. You were on your own 2015 to 2020. Do you remember that? You were on your own. Government was nowhere to be seen. Don't forget that. Government was nowhere to be seen 2015 to 2020. You couldn't even be in the same crowd with Granger and shake his hand. You had to take a picture next to a cardboard. That was government. Do you remember that? Do you remember Winston Jordan as the accountant who wants to be finance minister? Did he have any economic plan? Did he tell you about the $18 million bonus? Did he put anything in the budget like this that you looked 2015 to 2020, 2016 budget? Did you go, wow, we're going to get this? We're going to get this relief? We're going to get this pay raise? No, our face was sour. Jordan, Norton, Granger, our face was sour. 200 new taxes. And people were being fired left and right over the 5-year period. That's what we remember. So I'm excited. I want to tell you that. I'm excited as a citizen, as a government person, as somebody that I think understands a lot about economics and the delivery of goods and services to people, someone that understands a little about money. Guyana is in very, very good hands. And paying attention in detail to the estimates is good. You hear the questions asked, very minute questions. You know, why do you need 4 drivers for public works? Questions like that. Versus questions that says, you know what, I think if you had to come to Parliament and you would have come in with your budget and you would have sit down in the debates and you would have said to Minister of Health, you know, instead of building 6 hospitals, I think we should build 3 mega centers, and maybe we should invest a lot more in transportation to get people to the hospital, whatever it may be. You would have put out an alternative plan. Right? That's a debate. What's your alternative plan, Mr. Patterson? Is that prices for road was lower in 2018 than it was in 2023? Or Valda Lawrence, the commodities is lower than oil in 2023? Right? Or debt is higher in 2023 than it was in 2018 when you had a $200 billion budget then, a $700 billion budget now? So the debate, you would have come up with alternative plans to tell your counterpart in Parliament, this is how I would have run the country. This is what I would have done. This is how I would have increased revenues. Or this is how I would take care of our people. I would take this piece of the dollar and I would put it here. And if I do that, then I would make each citizen's life better. You heard it from our people. You heard it from every single minister and member of Parliament, how they plan to run their ministry, how our government plans to run. Did you hear that from the opposition? Hell no. Absolutely not. You heard nonsense. Nonsense from the opposition folks. So, it's coming down to the wire. The budget is a budget for the people. We have outlined our initiatives from 2020 to 2025 in our manifesto. There are quite a few other things that the president still have on his plate to do. He has started all the programs that will drive the economy to a better economy. When you hear Guyana is the fastest growing economy or the growth rate per GDP, per capita, these are all numbers out there. It may not make any sense to you, but what it tells you that our country is moving in the right direction. We may not understand all the numbers that are thrown out by the analysts, but it tells you that we're moving in the right direction. Our job is to ensure that we benefit. So why the president has a very aggressive housing program, that even the lowest income can get a mortgage, paying $30,000, $40,000 a month for a mortgage. You can't even rent a place for $40,000 today. They're making income that they can now be approved for a low income salary, middle level income and higher income housing. He wants to ensure all of us have an opportunity to live what we like, how we like. We want to own our own homes or house lots to build, right? He wants us to have more money in our pockets, more disposable funds. That's why he have increased the threshold for us, right? And it will continue to be increased over the next few years. That's why you've adjusted nursing salary, the disciplinary forces salary, to a higher level that is more comparable with the rest of the region. And I'm sure he has quite a few more on his list. He said teachers and other public servants. He have raised public servant salary by 8% this year. Last year there was a high percentage also. All of those are money that is coming back into our pockets. So the more disposable funds we get, it's money that we need to spend back. We will buy new goods. We will buy new furniture. We may invest in a mortgage, or we may invest in adding to our homes. Learn to use your money. Money makes money. The more you spend, the more you invest, the more activity you do, you would see those results. Follow the train of government. See where, as I mentioned earlier, where you benefit. How you could expand your operation in other areas. The new Northwest Ferry is coming to Guyana from India. There's going to be quicker service to Northwest. Have you ever thought of looking at what Northwest can provide you in your business here in the city and other parts of the region? That's how I want us to remember 2023 budget. It's a budget designed for you and me, the people. It's a budget designed to invest in areas that we need, that we can do for ourselves: energy, infrastructure, water, housing, healthcare. Those are all things we can do. Government got to take a portion of that $100 and make sure those things benefit us. Where do we benefit? Salary increases, threshold increases, cash grants in areas, access to land to do our own farming and our own manufacturing projects, expansion in the communities through roads, through all access road to farms, through lower energy for manufacturing and agro-processing, new industries such as the hemp industry. Those are all things that we have to grab. We have to benefit from. So as I close, this budget, as you listen to this week's conversation, is about us. Ask yourself the same questions. Ask yourself, how would you have done it differently? Or how would you support the government with it? Join His Excellency. He's not out there to tell us how to do it, what to do. He wants all of us to hold hands, be part of His development, work with our country, work with Him, work among all ourselves. Guyana forever. And we will always be one Guyana. God bless you.
Paid program, and the views and opinions expressed are those of the host